property tax control.
Oh, bro, it's crazy.
Yeah. So we decided to come here, never looked back. I went to play college basketball over there in Nebraska. I was like, I think I could do more with myself. I'm here now. I'm here just trying to network with people. Get started doing real estate. Yeah, that's how we get into real estate. So
Yeah, this is an awesome group to be part of.
right. Yeah.
Nathan, his entire group, like, he's got tons of people that he knows. His network is crazy. So definitely plug into his if you can. And then you have that Facebook page, right?
Yeah.
He's got a super sick Facebook page that like we all just like help each other out and whatnot. And then Jeremy's really awesome too. Yeah, they're both just like super knowledgeable in all things wholesale creative.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm already doing like.
Are you filming? You're already going live? Come on, you didn't tell me that. All right. So this is good? Okay. Jeremy, you ready to rock? Hey, everybody bring it in. You know, this is a small, intimate group. We want to just kind of be real. Like, we can talk about what's going on with you, Jeremy. I don't know if you have any specific, thing you want to go over today, but I kind of wanted to talk about, like, what's going on with the market right now, what everyone's facing, and let's just get real instead of just, like, talk about some rant.
I didn't bring a presentation because I was like,
that's good.
Let's just talk.
Okay, and if he's near me, you can hear us both, right?
Okay.
All right, guys, you ready?
Get into more.
It's fun, yeah. You'll find your right path for sure. Yeah, for sure.
All righty, everybody. So, Jeremy, if you want to come up here and we can kind of chat together, we can just kind of talk about the situation of what I'm seeing in my business and what you got going on. So, everybody, we're live on my my channel, and I think you got your guy just doing just video. Okay. Oh, you'll mic me up? Okay. Well, I got a mic here, but let's mic me up, double it up. So what's up, everybody? So I think everybody here knows who we are. So today, basically, I think it's awesome to collaborate, and so I had you come over, man. And the goal for me to have this meeting and for your meetings is just to help us do more deals, right? If we're helping you succeed, if we're helping you guys succeed, anybody that's watching this, we can all do more deals together. Because if you're by yourself, for the longest time, I just was like, hey, I'm just going to put my head down and try to do deals, forget everybody else. Everyone's trying to steal my deals. And I have like a really limited mindset, like a real scarcity mentality. And I changed to abundance, and I've been able to do more deals. So that's kind of the purpose, right? And I don't know if there's like tons of meetups that are specifically designated like wholesaling. This one's kind of like for beginners. So, or not even just beginners, but beginners that meet with investors that have experience so we can help each other out. So today, we got Jeremy. He's, we can just be open about what's going on. But what I'm seeing right now is I do a lot of deals through JVing, agent outreach. I don't spend any money on marketing right now because I feel like there's enough opportunities on the MLS through JVs that I don't have to spend money, right? So I'm looking at deals all day. That's pretty much like my business models. I have my buyers that buy, and then I bring them opportunities that fit their criteria, right? But I'm looking through deals left and right, and a lot of them suck. Right? They're bad deals. And I actually call the wholesalers. The agents, obviously that's a different scenario, but let's go to JVing. So I call them and I'm like, hey, your numbers don't make sense. Let's talk about the situation. Can we renegotiate? What's going on? And I'm starting to just see that like the sellers, we could say the wholesalers aren't that good at negotiating the low enough price, but I don't think that's always the problem. I think sellers, sometimes they're just not willing to go where it makes sense. So I'm just throwing that out. I don't know what your guys' business look like, but are you guys kind of seeing that too, where like you're seeing a lot of bad deals and it's kind of hard to make something like a wholesale deal?
So real quick.
Go ahead.
Real quick.
Do your thing.
I know you guys. I don't know you. And then people that are online right now. My name is Jeremy Davis. I own and operate a wholesale business, a fix and flip business, but specifically I specialize in creative finance. Right. So if you guys know who Pace Morby is, which I hope you do by this point, I'm his leader here for Utah. So again, that's what most of our deals are, is they do revolve around some form of creativeness. To Nathan's point, cash deals have almost entirely shriveled up from what we've seen. There's not many of them, or at least there's not many of them that have the same big spread or the big margin that they did last year. Last year, our average assignment fee for a cash deal was $51,000 for every deal. And right now we are, probably half that, I'd say. We luckily just this last week, we did have a $50,000 deal closed, but then we've got another $31,000, another $30,000, and $25,000. So it's gone down by about half. But also those deals are not all cash deals. Those are actually creative deals that we're assigning now. And so what we had to do is we had to kind of pivot in structuring and creating more creative deals that investors are going to want to buy. And when you are structuring a creative deal that you're looking to assign, it's not the same as a cash deal. When it's a cash deal, a flipper can look at that deal and go, okay, here's my margins, here's my ARV, my after repair value, here's what I'm going to get from this. If I put in $50,000, this is what they can expect. From creative finance, this is not like they're going to be making $50,000 6 months from now. This means they're going to be making $200 for the next 10 years. And so, or every single month for the next 10 years. And so it's our job in identifying this market right now with creative finance is who are the investors out there, just as you say, that you find buyers and what they're looking for, what a buyer's buy box is. We're seeing a lot more of that now in creative finance. If you go online, you go on Facebook and people are like, I'm looking for deals. Here's the typical creative finance buyer's buy box. 10% entry fee, 5% or less interest rate, 5 years or more balloon payment, and 3-bed, 2-bath. That's typically what they want. The most generic, like black and white box there can ever be. But when it comes to creative finance, it's not always 3-bed, 2-bath, 5-year balloon at 5% or below. It's you have to figure this out. There's ways of structuring where it might be 20%, or you know what? I bought properties at 50% down, but then I also make sure that the seller carries me their equity for the next 10 years on the back end at no payments, right? So like I can come in with 50% down as long as the seller allows me to make that into a cash flowing property. And so yeah, to Nathan's point again, it's identifying trends in the market. We saw that in Utah specifically, when the market shifted last year, specifically Provo, but then all of Salt Lake County and Utah County were the highest deflating markets or the fastest deflating markets in the nation. So we saw
It's crazy.
I think we saw somewhere around like a 26% drop in some of those zip codes. Yeah, everywhere was. Provo was number one, but like Ogden and Salt Lake, and basically everything just like that bubble that was growing and growing and growing. Because remember, in 2021, there were some months we were at 33% appreciation. So that couldn't sustain. It just couldn't. And so that bubble popped, market dropped. And then what happened here is that you've got homeowners that have lost their equity. And then you also have these same homeowners that if they decided to sell today, they're at a 2.5% interest rate. But now here's the problem is that their equity has dropped, but the value of their home has not gone up or down. It's basically remained stagnant from a year or two ago because they went up and now it went down. And so if someone were going to sell and they're at 2.5% interest rate, are they able to sell, walk away with their equity, and then buy a bigger house? No. They'd actually have to buy a smaller house because now we're at 7.5% interest rate, which means that same 3-bed, 2-bath, like a $500,000 home at 2.5% interest is I think $2,300 a month. That same $500,000 home at 7.5% interest is now $4,000.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
So like to buy the same home, to buy the same size home, you are now almost doubling your mortgage every single month. So it didn't make sense to any homeowner unless they need to sell, like it's a foreclosure or a tax sale. If they don't need to sell, why would they want to sell?
Right.
And so what happened with the Fed, when the Fed raised interest rates, what was the ultimate goal? It was to curb inflation, right?
Yeah.
All right. So making things more expensive, making people sell things at a cheaper price, like that was the whole point of trying to do that. Well, in the real estate world, inflation was happening and the interest rates were going up. So it did make buying a house more expensive. But what the Fed didn't realize was that by raising interest rates and removing the opportunity for a homeowner to sell their house and be able to move into a bigger house, like again, a seller strike, what's that doing is it's creating a depletion in inventory. It's creating less supply while demand is still high. And so when you have low supply and you have high demand, property values continue to rise. And so now we're seeing appreciation occur just like it did during COVID, because now nobody wants to sell their house, but people that want to buy a house, that need to buy a house, they're willing to spend a lot more because now they're getting approved at 7.5%, but they're willing to do it So again, we're seeing now an appreciation, rising
It's crazy.
housing prices. And yeah, I mean, it's a very crazy economic system that's taking place right now. But
how do you see it affecting flippers?
oh, well, flippers.
Do you think they're still being, because I'm seeing that they're not as aggressive on buying them?
Okay, so
like they used to.
flippers are not, you're right. Flippers are not as aggressive. For number one, the appreciation is not what it used to be.
Right.
Remember, like for the past 3 years, we were in Salt Lake freaking City, right? The fastest appreciating market in the nation.
Yeah.
It blew Phoenix away. It blew Florida away. We were the fastest growing market, and we have 1/3 the population of Phoenix, right? And so we had a lot of investors that were working here. And again, when there's low supply and high demand, all of those flippers were spending a lot of money, like bidding $100,000 over asking on every wholesale deal there was. On top of that, flippers now, they don't see that same appreciation. The interest rate has stayed the same for them because most flippers are using hard money.
Yeah,
so they're still sitting
12
around,
and 2.
Yeah, exactly. 12 and 2, 10% if you're a good flipper. But what you're seeing though is the problem is that we still do have a demand in buying homes, but there is less of a buyer pool. So a flipper that wants to come in and do $50,000 to flip or to repair a home, and they just think that they're going to walk away with a $100,000 profit, there's not as many bids. There's right, like when before, like any real estate agent that was working in Utah during COVID could literally like list a cardboard shack and it would go for $50,000 above asking because there were so many buyers that were bidding to buy and they were also, what were they doing? Mass exodus out of California, out of Oregon, out of Washington. If you really think about like, why was Utah such a prime target? It's just simple geographics. You've got Washington, you've got Oregon, you've got California. What's closest to Seattle?
What, Idaho and Utah?
There you go. Idaho. First is Idaho, you got Boise. And then second, you got Salt Lake City. What's closest to Portland? Boise, and then Salt Lake City. What's closest to San Francisco? Boise, and then Salt Lake City.
Right.
What's closest to Los Angeles? Phoenix, and then Salt Lake City. And then also there's Vegas in there as well.
Right,
like,
there's Vegas.
We are the red states.
Montana did blow up too.
Right. Oh, yeah. But that also Montana was affected not just by the West Coast, but also by the East Coast as well, trying to go more rural. But like every red state there was saw massive, massive growth. California like is losing people by the millions. But I mean, it's still California, still a massive powerhouse.
Right. For real.
Politics. But yeah, so I mean, to answer your question, flippers are still buying, but they don't see the same appreciation that they were before. So it is they are less aggressive. Because they know, like, I mean, in 2021, like I said, we were at 33% appreciation, month over month. A $500,000 house, all they had to do was hold on to it for 6 months, and they would make $90,000 in appreciation. Like, do nothing. Like,
it's crazy.
Burn down half of the house and repair the house for $90,000 and break even. Like, that was an unhealthy environment.
So a repercussion of that is if you're a wholesaler and you're trying to build a wholesale business, also your buyers is going to shrink as well.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're not buying as many properties. They're not seeing as much appreciation. So it's a little bit harder. So then you got to get those numbers that you're talking about.
Yeah, you got to get the right numbers, right? Because
better with the wholesalers, right?
Yeah. So your strategy to overcome this is seller finance, correct? Like you're structuring deals
seller finance options, everything creative finance. That's how we are, I guess, filling our pipeline with more deals because there just are less cash deals.
Okay.
I not to say that I don't agree with your strategy of marketing, but I am a lot of direct to seller.
No, of course.
So I mean, we put 15,000 out for PPC every single month, plus direct mail.
Is that just Utah?
Utah and Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. Okay.
And so we are spending a lot of money, but that's also allowing us to close more deals. Like in the
of
past,
course, 100%.
In the past 30 days, we're bringing in the next couple of weeks with deals in escrow right now. We have about 210,000 coming in.
Wow.
So I'm happy with that.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That came from direct to seller. We don't do any agent outreach. And the reason we don't is, and let me, before I discount agent outreach, agent outreach, here's the pros and the cons. Cons is that you're never going to get a 6-digit deal. You're never going to get a banger deal because there's one reason. There's an agent.
Yeah.
Right. And that agent is, first of all, they're going to protect that deal and they're never going to let their client sell it for a significant discount so that you can try to fix their problems. Like if they have a brother that's not paying rent and you're like, hey, let me help you evict the tenant, but I want $100,000 off. The agent's never going to let that happen. But if the seller was like, no, I want to sell it for $100,000 off, do you think the agent would buy that themselves?
Of course.
Of course they would.
Yeah.
Right. So they'd be like, oh my God, this is a massive opportunity. So the agent is never really going to allow the deal to be lower than the commission that they're going to make. Right. So if you can work with an agent, I do work with many agents in regards to JV deals we do, where there's properties that have little to no equity, where let's say the homeowner is trying to sell their property. They bought it last year. They don't have enough equity to bring to the table. So if they do sell with commission, they're actually bringing money out of pocket to sell. There, what we can come in is we can say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Agent, I can buy your client's property and I can get you your commission, but you have to be open to letting me have the conversation about creative finance. So as I was saying, so the cons are you've got that agent there.
Yeah.
The pros are for a lot of newer investors, a lot of newer wholesalers, the pros are the conversation with an agent is a lot easier than that of a homeowner that's going through foreclosure, that's getting bombarded by wholesalers every single day, that's having a panic attack every single second. Like that's a conversation where they're going to tell you to F off. They're going to tell you to get a real job. They're going to spit in your face. Like there's not like a homeowner when you knock on that door, you're like, hey, did you know you're losing your house to auction? They're not going to go, oh my God, yes, I did know that. Let's come on in, have some cookies.
They're like, hey, you're like the 10th person that's knocked.
Get the F off my door.
Yeah.
Yeah. 50th person. Like there was a house that we door knocked, my team door knocked, that the person had passed away, but nobody knew that. And I walk up to that front door and I am not kidding. It looked like a bulletin board of sticky notes and letters and everything stuck to the door, taped to the door, into the crack of the door, at least like 40 or 50 notes. Oh. And what did I do? I went to the neighbor and I said, what happened? Why, like, what's going on here? And they go, oh, she passed away and there's no kin. So like that deal, I mean, what I should have done is I should have deep prospected that and tried to find.
Yeah, a lot of people do like that genealogy, bro. They'll like do that family tree work. They will, bro. They'll like see who's the heir.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people do that.
But like, for example, we had a deal in West Valley City that we just closed on that we went to knock on the door and no one was home. There was a couple of sticky notes there.
You took them all down.
Of course I did. But a couple of sticky notes there. And the sticky notes were also dusty. Right. So it's a sign that no one has been there. No one has checked that out. And it's been there for a little while. So what do? I go to the neighbor, knock, knock, knock. What's going on with this? They go, oh, I think the tenant that was in there was a squatting renter. He just went to rehab. I think I do have the phone number of the original owner. Let me give him a call.
Wow. Great job. Great tip.
So I call the owner and I'm like, hey, what's your plan? And he goes, I don't have the money to stop the auction. And I go, well, what if we can put some money in your pocket? What do you want? And he goes, I think he said 20,000. And I said, okay. I'm like, what if I can get you 10,000 by next week? And we'll stop the auction and we'll do that. And he goes, okay, deal.
Wow.
So we closed the deal, $10,000. It was a $50,000 assignment. So
let's freaking go, brother.
So
that's sick.
You can still find cash deals.
Yeah, of course.
With agents, again, like I said, talking to agents allows the newer investor to have a real conversation with a human being, that because it's actually their fiduciary responsibility. It's their job to actually have that conversation with you.
Right.
It makes that approach much easier to where the newer investor that's never talked to a homeowner before, it's not like as abrasive and destructive.
Yeah. And so what I teach, I work with a lot of new people, right? You're starting out new, right? So when I first started, I had a lot of sales experience. I did door-to-door sales, and I joined a program. They're like, send mail, right? So I sent out $10,000 in mail, but I didn't understand the sales process. I didn't understand how to, like, who's going to buy it. So I spent $10,000 and didn't get a deal. That can be like detrimental for a lot of people to spend 10K and not get a deal. And for me, luckily, I was able to, keep going. But, that's why I think, like, for you starting out, working with agents, working with him, if you run in knocking doors, working with other wholesalers, doing things that don't cost a ton of money in the beginning. Because yes, people get lucky and they cold call and they get a deal. It can happen, but it can also kind of crush people, and they can be in the business and then soon be out of it. Right. So, what I tell people to do is get in there. Get your feet wet, make sure this is something you want to do, if you can even handle the rejection. And then, obviously marketing is key for growing a business. I've done pay-per-click, I've done everything, ringless voicemail, but if you're just getting started or you want to be consistent, try to be consistent with relationships. Coming to these meetups are free. You can come to this one, network with other people. I had someone came to this meetup, he sent me a lead. It's just like a lot of opportunities. I think you had one in St. George as well. Yeah. So did that ever go anywhere?
It's still going up.
That's a tough deal. He should see if he can structure something with it.
I think it's a 10 bed
Dude.
17,000 square foot castle.
Okay, I'm already done with that.
In the middle of like a normal neighborhood. I don't know what they were thinking, but they just built like the biggest, nicest
Dude,
house in the
There
neighborhood.
was a subdivision that they were building.
Where-
In
what's
eight
that?
lots. It's in Apple Valley in St. George.
I've
And he
seen,
bought-
I think I've seen.
It's like called the Castle
Yeah.
House.
Is it like really castle-y inside
Yeah.
too?
All
Yeah,
castle,
yeah.
inside and out.
Yeah.
And,
It's a tough one to sell.
I think I've seen that one. Is it up against a golf course or no?
No.
Okay, never mind. I've seen one similar to that.
Yeah.
But anyway, you're immediately saying, I'm
I'm
out.
immediately saying I would never touch that.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah.
It's that is what's called functional obsolescence, meaning that the vast majority of any homeowner is never going to want to buy that. It's going to be a boutique renter that
Bitcoin
like
miner from California or something crazy.
something like that. But like
Some
let's say-
weird.
let's say you can create it to like let's say, have you guys ever heard of oh shoot, TJ, you might know what's the hotel in California that's like every room is unique, like Dolly. It's not Dolly Parton Hotel.
Oh yeah, they do have that.
So like that right there, that you're not like those types of hotels, you are not going to get the vast majority of people that are going to want to stay in a hotel like that. That is like honeymooners, or that is like crazy people that like to do like role play and stuff like that. Like that's what the people that are going to rent rooms from those hotels are those types of people. Like for me, when I'm, if I'm traveling, I'm not like, oh, you know what I want to look for? I want to look for like a S&M dungeon style, honeymoon suite. Like maybe depending on if I'm in the mood. But anyway, so for something like that, a castle with 17 beds in St. George, what's the demand for that?
There's
Well, even a Bitcoin miner from California is not gonna want to move to St. George.
Exactly,
They don't wanna stay in
exactly.
St. George
Yeah.
or
This-
California by the beach.
He owned and started his own like skincare beauty product, like MLM, and they made like unfathomable money within the first year. Built this house, it took him 4 years, and he just divorced his wife, and now he wants to. It's a whole crazy
Tough situation, yeah.
No way. It's not zoned for Airbnb. They like ever since COVID, Southern Utah, like Washington County, has pretty much stopped all their short-term rentals.
Really?
There's a 7-year waiting list.
Oh my gosh,
and
bro,
the
that's
only way you can
nuts.
short-term rental is if you buy a property that's already had that.
Great example. I got a text message yesterday from a student of mine that said, hey, I've got a sixplex in Laverton that the seller was planning to make it into an Airbnb. He decided to sell it. He's letting it go for, I don't even know, like $800,000 down or something like that for like a $2.2 million sixplex. And I'm like, that's great. Is it permitted for Airbnb? And he goes, no, it's not. But the owner was planning to do it anyway. I go, I don't give a like, excuse me.
Yeah.
I don't care if what the owner is planning to do. If it's not permitted, that's going to be six. That's going to be 6 units that are possibly going to be getting fined. That I'd have to be like designing an operation around, like not letting anybody know that I'm doing an Airbnb there. Like that, it's stupid. So like, yes, your castle deal, I would watch that shrivel up and die.
Oh yeah, it's
Like,
going to.
I wouldn't even care.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
Wow,
and,
yeah.
like for him, like he probably should have made some smarter choices than building a castle in the middle of a residential neighborhood.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Did you
Yes,
find
sir.
it online on the MLS or was it?
It was on the
listed?
auction website.
So
and I
it's
just
not even
went-
listed?
No.
Like listed for sale, it's just like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have an assignable contract on it right now, but I mean, and I've been trying to help for the past 2 months postpone this foreclosure date. But the lender just told me yesterday that they want the house.
what's the lender? Who is the lender?
Zions.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's weird.
What are they gonna do with it?
That's what I told them. I was like,
Blow it up.
keep the house. No one's getting it.
Yeah.
You know, might as well. I don't know.
Let me figure it out. Yeah.
what that tells me is that Zions has already probably postponed the auction by like multiple times.
Yeah.
He's probably filed bankruptcy. Has he filed bankruptcy
Not
yet?
yet.
Okay, so he hasn't done bankruptcy yet, but they've probably delayed it. You're probably the 5th, 6th wholesaler to come in and try to do the exact same thing. So at this point, Zions is losing money every single time. They're paying a trustee. They're paying a lawyer to be able to handle this. So at this point, they're bleeding out money by delaying these auctions over and over and over again. And they know it's not going to sell. They know by this point, so they're cutting their losses. They're writing this off, and they're going, you know what? That's just going to be a write-off from our books. It's a negative deal. If anything, maybe we could sell the land, tear down the castle. We could try to salvage something from it. So that's exactly what they're doing. When we deal with homeowners that are going through auctions and foreclosures that have done multiple delays or that they've filed bankruptcy multiple times, the lender typically at that point says, I don't want to stop this any longer. You either close now or we don't extend. Right.
So let me ask you this question, because this is something I have for you. So how do you bring up the creative pitch? Do you go cash first and then go creative when they don't accept? Is it always lead with the cash?
Good question.
Okay.
Always cash.
Okay.
Always cash.
That's what I was thinking.
I would much rather make a $50,000 assignment fee up front or be able to do a fix and flip and make that money than make $400 a month.
Right.
You know,
So have you tried novations here in Utah or retail buyer programs?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Do you try to strive to get those as well?
yes and no. We found in other states, it's more advantageous to try that strategy. Out here, what we find is that, I mean, think about this for a second. This is the hottest market in the nation. Every homeowner has had contact with an agent at some point.
Right.
And they've got agent phone numbers in their back pocket. They've been marketed to by agents. So I'd say that 99% of the time that we say, hey, we offer, we could do a novation. We don't tell them it's a novation.
Of course. Yeah.
We
Done for you
come in
service,
and
whatever.
We'll list your property. You don't have to deal with all the BS of showings and stuff. We'll take everything from here and we'll try to get you the most amount of money possible. They always go, oh, no. I have a family friend who's an agent. I already know that person. I'm already planning to work with that person. So it's very rare. Now, if you're in a more rural market,
Right.
to where you have less of an investor buyer pool, then it comes in more handy because those people know that there's less agents that will work for them. And so if it's easy for them to just sell a rural property, then they'll do a novation.
Yes, I have one in Del Rio, Texas, in the middle of nowhere, right? Novation, whatever you want to call it. Actually, we put it on the MLS to find a retail buyer, but a cash buyer came in anyway. So it's just a normal assignment.
Yep.
But yeah, cool. I was just wondering your thoughts on that too.
Like, I've got a deal right now. We're closing in Las Vegas that we were planning to wrap it. Do you know what a wrap is?
Yes.
What is a wrap?
It's like where you like have a hold of a contract and then give it to another investor in a sense, or I think
Nope, that's an assignment.
That's an assignment, right?
Right,
Okay,
that's an assignment. So an assignment is like you get something under contract and then you sell that contract for a value over here.
value.
A wrap is where you have a property that you take over subject to or seller finance
Right.
at a lower interest rate, and then you sell it at a higher interest rate.
Oh,
So you are wrapping your interest rate around the first one, and so you keep that difference. Right, so you're no longer the owner of that. Like if I take over a property subject to, and I'm making it into a rental, that property stays mine. I'm the owner of that property. I have to fix the toilet when it clogs. I have to deal with all that bullshit. But when you wrap it, you are no longer the owner because I'm selling my rights to that property to somebody else. So right now in this market where we're at 7.5, I think 7.8% is where current mortgage rates are.
It's low sevens.
Okay, so like 7.5% interest rate. Think about this for a second. If I were to get a property at 2.5% interest, and then I listed on the MLS as a seller finance deal at 7% interest, which is less than what current interest rates are. So who would want to say no to that? They go, well, hey, instead of me going to a bank to get approved at 7.5%, I can go to the homeowner themselves at 7%, save money, and I can refinance later. That's fine, but that's what a wrap is. And so we got a deal. And to your point, so we have a deal in Las Vegas right now that we bought about 2 months ago.
So you closed on it?
Yeah, we closed on.
With terms, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, you got it terms. Okay.
Subject to, I think it's 3.5%. And then our whole plan was to wrap it.
Yeah.
So we went in there. I think we put in a total of about $9,000 for carpet, paint, and a couple of little fixer-uppers. And if I remember the numbers correctly, we got in on the deal at 230. Okay, so the mortgage balance is 230. We borrowed $50,000 from a private lender.
Okay.
So now we're in at 280. That $50,000, part of that's going to the fix up, part of that is going to the holding costs and the fees to pay the mortgage and all that stuff. So we're in at 280. We listed it at 330, and then we just found a conventional buyer, not a wrap buyer, a conventional buyer that's at 347.
Okay.
So
much rather do that than
I would much rather do that. So
just get out of it.
347. So 347 take away 280 with, obviously we have to pay interest to the private money lender and stuff like that. This is about a $50,000 deal. And so I'll do that every day.
Yeah.
But if a wrap buyer came in and said, yes, I'll come in with 10% down on a purchase price of, let's just round up 350. So that's 35,000. 35,000 goes back to paying my private lender 35,000, but that private lender is still in the deal with $15,000.
Right, he needs that dough.
The delta is $15,000, but guess what we're doing? we have created it from a 3.5% to a 7% interest rate. We are now cash flowing over $1,000 a month. Would that private lender be okay keeping $15,000 in the deal at 15% interest?
Oh yeah.
Yes. So that was our plan all along, but now we're doing a conventional buyer, so we're just selling it.
So wow. So when you do wraps and fix them up, you borrow money from hard money lenders to do the
hard
rehab?
money, no, private money.
Oh, private money. Okay.
So-
And what
so-
was the private money? You said 15% or
12% private money.
private money?
Now, just to be clear right now, if the deal works, I mean, ideally, I would love to come in at 8% or 10% private
Right.
money. But when it's something like this, where it's very short term,
And second position too,
and
right?
second position, exactly right.
Yeah, so-
First position, you can get even lower interest
Of
rates.
course.
But yeah, 12% for this one, and with a 6-month term, it looks like she's going to get paid out in 3 months, and so she walks away with.
That's your private money lender you're talking about, she? Okay.
Yep, yep. So she gets 12% interest over 3 months. She was in, she was out. She makes like, I don't know, $1,200, something like that, and everyone moves their own direction.
Cool.
You
Cool.
don't use hard money because they won't lend you in the second position.
They won't.
They will not, hard money will typically not lend in second position unless the deal is outrageously in their favor, where, you know, the mortgage and the bank's mortgage is like $10,000 remaining and there's $300,000 of equity, then they have no problem with that, because if they have to foreclose, first position gets paid off, but they still have a lot of protection.
Love it. Love it. So I want to ask you this, and you might know, be able to help me out too. So do you guys have a cold calling team that like cold calls through leads, or is it just PPC? They come in and you call them. How does that work?
Great question. So no, there's inbound and there's outbound. There's always inbound and outbound. Inbound leads are going to be direct mail, and they're going to be PPC.
Okay.
Primarily. You can also look at bandit signs, which are those, you know, you're driving along and it's like, we buy houses.
You got those out too?
No.
Okay.
I don't have the time for that.
Yeah. Flyers, you flyer, anything
right.
that's coming in when they call
Anything
you.
that's coming in, when you're getting a phone call, there's going to be two people on the other end of that line. Either some motivated seller or someone to tell you to fuck off and take them off the list, right? Like those are the two phone calls you get no matter what. So inbound is going to be PPC, which is Google pay-per-click, Facebook ads, anything to where a homeowner identifies an opportunity to then call or fill out a web form. That's inbound. And then outbound is going to be cold calling. It's going to be SMS. It's going to be outreach, to where now you are asking, come closer, come forward. You don't have to hang out.
My brother, what up? Good to see you.
And so outbound is going to be, you're going to be actually asking those homeowners if they want to sell. It's a cold call. It's literally a cold outreach. And it's typically the leads you get from that are very rarely going to be hot.
Right.
They're going to be mostly cold or warm if you're lucky, because they weren't reaching out to you. You might get lucky and get that person that just happened to be like, oh my God, yes, I just came down with a meth addiction and I want to sell my house right now.
The craziest is like, they're like, I just got an offer. I was about to accept it today. You're like, I can beat it by $1,000. They're like, okay.
Exactly right.
Then those are like, oh my gosh.
So yeah, to answer your question,
Yeah, you're like, wow, okay.
like my recommendation for anybody starting off, and this is to you guys out there in virtual land, starting off, don't ever do inbound marketing. Don't do PPC. Don't do direct mail.
Agreed.
You don't have your systems built out yet for that, and that is very expensive. I had somebody.
My experience too. Remember, I told you 10K mailers.
Oh yeah.
I waited, got 5 calls, couldn't convert any of them. You just dropped 10K.
Exactly right. I had someone go to my website 2 days ago. You may have seen it online. I posted it as a story. Some asshole goes to my website, and where it says like, do you want to sell your house? Give your information below. Some asshole here in Salt Lake puts in his information and says, add me to your buyer's list. I'm like, you just cost me $246.
For the click.
For
Yeah.
the click, for submitting his
Golly.
information. He just cost me $246 freaking dollars because he wants me to add him to his buyer's list, or add him to my buyer's list.
That's honestly like the worst thing with PPC is like half the time it's like wholesalers trying to sell their deals.
Yep, you're exactly right.
So
yeah, so PPC and direct mail, those can be death by 1,000 cuts.
Yes.
If you don't have the systems in place to convert those, you don't have, it's called speed to lead, right? So when someone submits a lead into my system, so when someone goes to my website, puts in information, my CRM, my software notifies me almost like immediately. Also, will call my phone or my acquisition manager's phone basically right away, so that the phone rings and it goes, PPC lead, press hash to answer. So I go, shit, hold on, sorry. Like if right now, if that lead came in, I'd say, sorry, I got to step away for a second.
That's how it is.
That just cost me $246.
2 a.m. in the night. Hello.
Right. And so,
got?
What do you got to sell?
And because I'm marketing to Vegas, there's so many of those 3 a.m. calls.
That's
Like, oh, I just
crazy,
got
right?
back from the club.
I want to sell. I
Right.
lost all my money.
Exactly. And
And
so,
I got a meth addiction on the way home.
exactly right.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
So back to my point is that for anybody that's beginning, outbound marketing is going to be your best bet. It's going to be your cost to conversion is going to be the highest cost of conversion. For example, for cold calling, we are at somewhere like $32, 32x. So for every dollar spent, we make about $32 for that dollar. PPC is around 20, or sorry, not PPC, SMS is around 26. So for every dollar we spend, we make about $26. That's an amazing return.
That's amazing.
PPC is not going to be the same way. PPC is going to be a lot less. That ROI is going to be much, much less. But your timeline to close a PPC deal is much, much faster versus a cold call. That person may go, you know what? You called me. Yeah, I might be open to selling 6 months from now. So now you have to set up the systems to follow up with them, to call them back. You're not going to call them back in 6 months. You're going to call them back in 30 days. And you're going to say, hey, has anything changed? Has anything changed? Has anything changed? Till eventually they either tell you that they're not selling anymore or they've got an agent.
Yeah.
You know, like, so with that being said, outbound is going to be your best way of making deals. And if you can convert that, that leads me to where my point is. I specialize in outbound. And I don't normally talk about this, but I own Prime Virtuals. It's a VA company that does specifically cold calling and SMS. And we help like a lot of our clients be successful with not only cash, but also creative deals. But when you are a solopreneur, when you're an entrepreneur, you're a beginner wholesaler, you have to make the decision that you're going to market in some fashion, right? You're going to market, whether that's going to be literally standing on the corner with a freaking sign saying I buy houses, or you're going to be cold calling. You're going to be doing something. Is what you have to generate leads, right? If you look at a conveyor belt, the very first seat on that conveyor belt is lead generation. If you are not getting leads into your conveyor belt has stopped at the first seat, right? So you have to decide how you're going to generate leads. And if you are a solopreneur, the cheapest way to do it, the absolute easiest, cheapest way to do it is calling agents. Just yourself. And that's why you teach that, because it's
Calling agents, yeah.
It's the simplest way of doing it. It's the easiest conversation. It's easy to get the bugs out and get better at talking to different people and giving offers. But eventually there's going to come a point where you need to start reaching out to more people. And the question is, do you have the bandwidth? Let's say you right now, you're like, I'm calling agents, and you get an agent that goes, yeah, my client wants to sell to you. What do you do next?
Well, I have this, well, actually, funny enough, I have a deal that we're setting up right now. It's
Cool.
in Minnesota. So
Okay.
I have this investor, I guess, in my back pocket, so that is interested in doing creative financing. He just runs the numbers down, and then he gives me an assignment fee for finding at least that.
So you're a bird dog.
I'm a bird dog for now, but I'm here to understand more on,
Right.
how
Well,
to do
but to clarify, you're not getting an assignment fee, because to get an assignment fee, you would have to get it under contract.
Right.
So you're just helping him identify properties and sellers that might be open to that
Correct.
conversation. So
Correct.
you're a bird dog, so you get a finder's fee,
Correct.
and that's great. That's how a lot of people start, and
Right.
that's a wonderful opportunity, because it's
Right.
teaching you how to generate leads. But let's say, for example, you don't have this buyer, but
Right.
you want to buy this deal yourself, or you want to be the investor, right? So you're talking to a homeowner, and they say, you know what, I want to sell. And you're like, great. Now let's get under contract.
Right.
Okay, you get under contract. What's next?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, you're a beginner.
Yeah.
Easy enough. You got to now find a buyer.
Right.
You first got to open escrow. You got to work with transaction coordination. You got to make sure the paperwork is right.
Yes.
But guess what you're not doing? You're not calling sellers anymore,
Right.
because now you're focused on the next seat of the conveyor belt. So there's the eventual point to scale any businesses. You're going to have one person in every seat on that conveyor belt.
Right.
Lead generation, lead follow-up, acquisitions or closing, transaction coordination, dispositions, and then finally, if you are keeping the deals for yourself, you're going to have that asset management.
Yeah.
Right. And so my whole point to that is that you might be able to start now by cold calling yourself, but there's going to come a point where you're going to get a deal under contract and you have to choose, do I stop my lead generation entirely, or do I put someone in that seat to help? That's where a virtual assistant comes into play. So the virtual assistants, they specialize again in SMS, specialize in cold calling, they specialize in admin tasks, lead management. I don't necessarily think acquisitions is the best place for any virtual assistant, because in the creative finance world, this up here is the value, and you can't really teach anybody to be your creative finance acquisition manager, because They don't know at that moment. They don't know how much private capital you have available. They don't know what your bandwidth is. They don't know what your exit strategy is. So most of the time, acquisitions is going to be an American role. And if it's going to be creative, that's going to be you. Like
You got to learn how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I almost accepted I may never step away from that one role in my business, that cash, that can be automated. But creative, if I want to keep my creative deals, I'm going to have to be in that pipeline at some point. What that's going to eventually lead to is my team goes, all right, Jeremy, here's 100 leads that we gave cash offers to that none of them said yes to, but they're open to creative options. That's when I would come in and have that conversation. So, to get a little more like granular, when hiring a VA, there's two ways to do it. Either one is going to be a freelancer, right? So you're going to be going on to Upwork, or onlinejobs.ph. These are places you can find freelance virtual assistants that will do the job for a slightly lesser hourly pay. Problem with that is, and it's not necessarily a problem, but the issue with that is you've got to hire. Okay, so you've got to hire, you've got to train, you've got to manage, you've got to monitor, and you've got to basically like track their KPIs, make sure that they're not letting leads fall through the cracks. I had VAs that literally, if it wasn't for my transaction coordinator at that exact moment, she said, hey, can I listen into one of your VA's calls? And I'm like, sure. Yeah. So a lot of CRMs allow you to like listen into a phone call. And so I'm like, yeah, let's listen to it. And I don't think I ever told you this, TJ. We hear the seller going, hello, I can hear you sleeping. And my VA is going, no way.
I can hear you sleeping.
Yeah. And I literally, I came into that call at that exact second. I could hear you sleeping and my VA snoring.
Just cracking up, bro. That's hilarious.
And by the way, this was before I owned the company. This was before I built the company out. This is when I just hired VAs in the beginning because nobody was monitoring them. There was no manager that was listening in on their calls and monitoring them. That was me and that was my job, right? So
auto dial. He just had the auto dialer going, just sleeping.
There's been other VAs that I've heard that you could hear like video games playing in the background and all that kind of stuff. And to their defense, they're sitting there waiting for a dialer to connect with a homeowner. And a lot of times they're sitting there for 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes if you don't give them a good skip trace list with good valuable numbers, they might sit there for an hour at a time without a single phone number connecting. And so it's really important that if you are going to be doing SMS or cold call outreach, you have to be on top of your lists, your skip tracing. And so as I was saying, you can hire a VA through just like Upwork and have them be a freelance. But again, you're going to have to manage them. You're going to have to monitor them. Or there's other people out there, which is like my company, Prime Virtuals, which is full turnkey, right? So your only job is to make sure that a list is generated at least once a month. Meaning you are handing that VA their diet for the month. And if you hand them a solid diet, like good food, they're going to be able to generate the most amount of leads. But now let's say you find a list over here for free that somebody was using 6 months earlier for like Maricopa County. I remember Pace Morby gave out a list to all of his substitute students for Maricopa County. So this is Phoenix. And I had clients that were like, hey, I want to use this list. And I said, the fuck you are, right? Like, let me be clear with this.
Yeah, you don't want to use that. You don't want to use that list.
Yeah, you don't want to use that list because that list has been literally destroyed. Like, I guarantee you, not only has it been used by Pace's company, but now it's going out to thousands of students all at the same time. To find a seller in that list would be like trying to squeeze liquid out of a cactus, right? Like, you might be able to get something, but the pain you're going to go through while squeezing that cactus out with your bare hands, it's just not worth it. So what we tell all of our clients is your number one rule is going to be generating a list once a month. You're going to be pulling a list of fresh prospects, somewhere around 10,000 addresses, and you're going to want to skip trace that every month. That means that now you're not squeezing out a cactus, you're squeezing out a wet washcloth. So that first time that your VA calls, the most amount of leads will fall out. Then the next amount and the next amount. Eventually, by the end of that month, it's going to be kind of dried out. You can't really go further from that, which is, again, your job is the next list. And so you have to repeat yourself. Where I see most clients fail is when they are consistent for a few months, but then they fall out and they stop trying to skip trace, or they stop trying to pull lists, or they start trying to save money because they expect they're going to get a deal in the first week. And then once they don't see that deal coming to fruition, this is in every marketing aspect, whether it's cold call, whether it's SMS, PPC, don't ever expect to get a deal right away. It's going to come in. You have to build a pipeline of leads that are eventually going to go there. So,
you do a little deeper dive on the list every month. Would you change, like, you'd say you did pre-foreclosures and out of states or something, and then you skip trace those 10,000? Would you do a new 10,000, and do you find that they run out of lists to pull? They have to move markets, or?
That is a great question, TJ. So TJ just asked a question about when pulling a list, like, do you pull foreclosures one month and then you pull like tax delinquency the next month, or do you move on, whatever it may be? There's two schools of thought. One is far and wide, but shallow. And then the other one is very, very deep in one location. And so neither of them are right and neither of them are wrong. But what I'll tell you right now is if I'm only focused on Salt Lake, for example, I'm going to be running out of prospects. Like eventually I'm going to run out of addresses that I can market to because I've already done that. I'm going to have to repeat that process over and over again. The other school of thought, which is again, the very wide but very shallow, is almost like imagine a swarm of locusts where you pull a large list, not 10,000. You're pulling 150,000 to 300,000 every single month. So you're skip tracing that. That's costing you, $30,000 in skip tracing every single month. But what you're doing is like a swarm of locusts. You're attacking one major city as fast as possible. Like you've got 15 cold callers, right? You're just bombarding them, and what you're bombarding is high equity. That's it. High equity, maybe absentee, and maybe if you really want to niche it down, you'd be looking for like what the median household price is. You're not going above that. You're keeping it in that what is the most common house that's ever purchased, right? So you hit that city and you just bombard that city with 150,000 addresses and you call it. And as soon as you run out of that prospect list, next city, next city, next city. One of the biggest problems though, why Salt Lake doesn't allow that to happen is that we are not like North Carolina. North Carolina, right? You're in Raleigh. You go an hour in any direction, you're now an hour close. You're at Greensboro. You're at Charlotte. You're at Fayetteville, right? Then you can go west to Tennessee. Now you're at Knoxville. You're at Chattanooga. Like an hour in any direction is not only a new major city, but it's now a secondary buyer pool, right? Because that buyer pool over in Chattanooga, they'll probably also buy in Knoxville. So now you've got double the buyer pool. So you've got a great way to dispo. But again, this is going to be a very expensive endeavor, and you have to have a very, very solid conveyor belt to be able to do so. In Salt Lake, what's our biggest problem? What's our nearest city?
St. George.
St. George.
Cedar City.
5 hours away. And is St. George a major city? No, it's a tertiary market. It's like I'll go there and I'll maybe buy a property if that's where I want to retire, but like I'm never going to market there because there's just not enough desire to be there.
Or like Denver, you have Denver.
Denver's 8 hours away.
8, then you got Boise.
5 hours away.
Still smaller cities.
Right. So there's still smaller cities. There's nothing major from one to the next to the next. And so out here in Salt Lake, you have to get very deep. If you're going to be wanting to market out here, you're going to have to get, pulling every type of pain list there is. You're going to be wanting to market over and over and over again to the same people. But the advantage that is the deals you do here are going to be twice the amount of assignment fee that they will be in North Carolina. North Carolina is $25,000, right? It's because there's so many more deals, but there's also so many more opportunities where you just turn and burn. You're not looking for those big ass assignment fees. And the people out here in Salt Lake, the buyers are willing to pay a lot more because there is less inventory.
So if you have your virtual assistant working and you're narrowing it down like that, you just re-pull the same list again, pay skip trace again, and just recycle.
If I'm talking about Salt Lake, you're talking about Salt Lake, right?
In a market just like this.
Okay, so a deep market. So a deep market, you're going to have to alternate lists, right? So you might want to go high equity absentee. Okay, so that's what's another word for that, tired landlord, right? So you might want to do tired landlord list. And then the next month, you might want to do low equity on market.
Unknown equity.
Right, or unknown equity.
You gotta try them.
Vacant. I mean, like you do have to alternate around, but again, when you're in a smaller market, you have to go deeper, which is again going to be foreclosures.
So you could come up with 12 different things to target, go through the year, and then go back to the original one.
Right. But the thing is though, TJ, is that like if I were to come up with high equity, how many high equity homeowners do you think there are in Salt Lake County? All of them. Right. So you're not going to run out if you're only pulling a list of 10,000 every month. It's going to take you a full year to pull at 10,000. I mean, there's 150,000 houses, give or take. I think somewhere around there. Anyway, but like if you want to do Utah County, you want to do Weber, you want to do all that kind of stuff, like you will never run out of high equity by the time that you need to recycle that list. Now you've got a whole other list of high equity.
Well, if you pull high equity every month, aren't you going to get a lot of the same addresses?
No, because you're pulling. I mean, let's just say you have
to do a different zip code.
Yeah, exactly right. When you have data aggregators like PropStream and stuff like that, it allows you to.
You're not just doing the whole thing, you're doing zip code. very.
You can do zip codes, or you can very easily just see like a list of 100,000, for example, and you say, I want to pull 10,000, and you pull 10,000. Then next month you say, I want to pull 10,000, and it's going to actually identify the first addresses you pulled are not going to count towards your pool that you pull every month. So then you're going to pull the next 10,000, and what you would do at that point is you would then, you ideally when you export lists, you want to put them into a master list. And so you want to identify if there's ever any copies, but basically like you could pull the next month 20,000 from PropStream, but only 10,000 are going to count. Right? Does that make sense?
Do you do a lot of outbound marketing?
No.
Not so much? Okay.
That's a lot of the reason why I'm asking those questions, because it's.
Well, the reason why I asked you is because I had about 10 cold callers, and then I've scaled my business down, and it's me and a VA, and then we do deals like no overhead. And I have like about 30,000 leads that need to be followed up with all this stuff. And I'm like, well, I could get my people like 10 cold callers again and blast through them at least once and see what opportunities remain, or network with someone that has a team. Just be like,
I mean, I'll be honest with you. If you have 30,000 leads that you need to follow up with, have you set up a drip campaign yet?
I have them all in a spreadsheet, and I just haven't done anything with them. It's been about a year.
My advice to you on that is
Drip on them.
Drip on them, right? So if you guys, do you know what a drip campaign is?
It's text, yeah.
It's text message only, and it's basically like you set up a drip sequence. So the first drip is going to be like, hey, what's your name?
Eddie.
Eddie. It's hey Eddie, we spoke last year. Didn't know if you were still thinking about selling your property at 123 Main Street. Then the second one is, hey Eddie, is this still the same number? Are you still interested in selling? Then the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one.
Yeah.
Like we have it go out to like 15 different texts over and over and over again, to where you're just trying to get them back into the pipeline.
So you wouldn't call them, you'd drip on them, and then
I would drip.
okay.
It's
That's
so much cheaper,
so
and
much
so much easier
Okay.
to try to get them to answer their phone. Like here's the good thing is that those are leads, right?
Right. Yeah,
Those
they've
are
been
people-
filtered.
Those are people that not only raise their hand as a desire to maybe sell their property, but you've confirmed one thing. That's their phone number.
Yeah, they're
So
real people.
You know that is their phone number, you might have a landline where you don't have the ability to send a text message out, and oh well, that sucks. But most people now have mobile phones no matter what.
Right.
And so I'd say 99% of that list is going to be all mobile. So just send a text out. I would put on a drip campaign.
What software do you use for that? Do you use your Go High Level, or do you use this?
I have 3 different softwares. To be honest, I use Launch Control
Okay,
for
Launch Control.
Well, hold on. I use Launch Control for our larger lists.
Okay.
For dripping, I would never use Launch Control. Launch Control is built for 10,000 texts to go out like in one day.
Right.
So like boom, like that's a blast. REI Reply, which is built on Go High Level.
Same thing, yeah.
REI Reply is a good one that we use for marketing to our niche lists, to where it does have drips built into that. But that is for prospecting.
Yeah.
That's not for lead management. Once somebody on REI Reply or Go High Level says that they're open to receiving an offer, or they've raised their hand, then we move them into our main CRM, which is RE Simply.
RE Simply.
So RE Simply,
That's built off Go High Level as well, right? No, it's not.
It's total standalone.
Okay,
In my opinion, it's probably the most powerful. Like every wholesaler that I know, every fix and flipper, and every buy and hold investor, it's built around wholesale.
Yeah. I know RE Simply, yeah.
And
Cool.
So if there's a lead, we bring that into RE Simply, and then there's where we have our main drip sequence. That once they have established that they're a lead, then the drip hits, and then we go like, hey, you told us you wanted to sell your house last year. I'm checking in. The market shifted. We got some capital in our bank account now. We're looking to buy more properties. What do you think?
Love it.
Like I had a text message this morning that a drip went out, and she said, thanks for checking in. I think I'm going to sell in about 2 months. Guess what that means? Great. I'm going to hop on a phone call with her. My team's going to hop on a phone call
Right now.
Yeah, pretty much after this, and be like, hey, great. I just want to see is there anything that would speed up that timeline? If we gave you a great offer, would you be okay to move in 30 days? We have that conversation, because now she has said, and I don't even know, I think this was like a year-old lead. I haven't even checked it, but like we
Damn.
basically sent it just drip and saying, hey, we're just checking in. Has anything changed? She says, yes, I want to sell in 2 months.
That's awesome.
So-
Cool. About to do that. Let's go. All right, everybody. That was freaking some good stuff, good sauce, right? Was that good?
I got deep into the weeds.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of what people want, though. They don't want like the fluff. They want to know what's real. And thank you for dropping some great gems. Well, guys, that's pretty much the meetup. We can also, you guys can sit around and network, but we're good. We're good.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah,
Let's
just
round of
so you guys
applause.
know, tomorrow, thank you guys. Thank you. Tomorrow, if you guys know any agents, we are actually going to be doing a CE course here tomorrow to teach all about creative finance.
Sick.
It's nice and huge.
So they're gonna even get like credit.
Yeah.
Wow, good
Yeah,
job,
we
dude.
got it insured, and we got it approved by the Division of Real Estate.
Good job. That is amazing.
4 hours. It's 2 hours for the part one and 2 hours for the part two. So tomorrow's part one, and we're gonna probably do like 4 part ones for every part two.
Sick.
You got it here?
No, I'm just putting my stuff down. No, everybody, we can connect. I just want to say, hey, so we do this the second Wednesday of every month. You never know the turnout, but basically it's just to really just get real and talk about what's going on and do some more deals.
Yep.
That's it.
And then you guys already know, but I've got my creative finance meeting on the third Thursday of every month.
That's it. Here.
Yep, here.
Dude, thanks for coming to support, man.
Yeah, man.
What's new?
A little bit earlier, but
No, dude, I think